Thanks for joining me for another 5 Things Friday. This week, I am tackling the big question, to read or not to read a series in order. You know what my take on it is? I bet you can guess. Stay tuned and we'll get to it. I'm so glad to have you with me for another Friday, and I'm still sort of riding high from the fact that the Bakeshop Mysteries is now 10 books deep. 10! That's almost a baker's dozen. I can't wait for that. When book 13 comes out, I don't know what we'll do. We'll have to serve them up in a box with a baker's dozen of something delicious. Anyway, I digress. A question that I get asked often from readers who are just discovering the series is whether or not they should read the books in order. Should they start with book 10 or should they go back to the beginning to book 1? Now, as an author and even as a reader, I have many thoughts on why you should definitely, yes, you should definitely go back and start with number 1. But I'm going to limit myself to 5 today. And maybe you'll agree with me or maybe you won't. Either way, let's get right to it. Number 1. The number one reason that I think you should read a series in order is because I have a growth arc for my protagonist. In the Bakeshop Mysteries, we meet Juliet in book 1. She's fresh off leaving her husband Carlos at sea, and she's coming home to Ashland to heal her broken heart. Now, for many of you, you likely know that what makes fiction work is the protagonist to have some kind of a quest, right? It doesn't work if our protagonist just goes about their day and everything works out magically and beautifully. That would be wonderful, but A, that's not how things work in the real world, and B, that really wouldn't be a compelling story because you'd be like, yeah, great, your life is perfect. That doesn't work for me. So in every book in the Bakeshop Mysteries, Jules has a singular quest, and that is to solve the mystery. There's always a murder, and Jules' job is to make Ashland right again. She wants to bring the killer to justice, and she wants Ashland to feel like the safe, warm, welcoming community that it's supposed to be. That's her quest for every book, from book 1 to book 10. But there's also a bigger quest for her in this overarching storyline of the entire series. And for Jules, that is the idea of coming home. When I first started writing Meet Your Baker, the very first book in the series, I was trying to find my way into Juliet as a character. And I knew that she'd spent a long time at sea, and I knew that she'd grown up in Ashland, and it was this idea of coming home that kind of pulled me into her and made me really begin to understand who she was as a character. And in her growth arc, we see that idea of coming home. And if you come home again, are you the same? Has home changed? Have you changed? And can you love home and also a person? Insert Carlos here. So there are all of these layers of Jules that we get to know from book 1 to 2 to 3, and that arc is developing, and there's much more to come for that. So for me as a writer, I want you to experience that from the start and to watch her grow. Number 2, this kind of ties into number 1, which is the development of the secondary cast of characters. One of the biggest gifts of writing a long-running series is getting to develop the entire cast. So not only is Juliet on a quest to figure out what home means for her and to solve those murders that seem to be piling up in our nice little hamlet of Ashland, but her group of friends and family, her team at Tort, they all come to life. And in the beginning, in Meet Your Baker, in A Matter of Life and Death, On Thin Icing, those first few books in the series, we're really getting to meet all of those characters, but I don't have a lot of time and space to put everything I want to tell you about them in. And so as the series has grown, each character gets more time center stage, as Lance would say. So Lance, Jules' best friend, we get to know him better and better. Sterling and Andy, the team at Tort, Jules' mom Helen and the professor, even the horrid Richard Lord. As the series grows, we get to know each of those secondary characters more. And for me, I always, when I sit down to start a new book, I think about who I want to really shine a light on in that particular book. And I'm getting to know them too, which I really enjoy. So I think you should read a series to meet those secondary characters and go along on a little journey with them. Number 3, the setting. The setting gets richer with time. It's like with the secondary cast of characters. In the beginning, we're introduced to Ashland and we get to know little parts of Ashland, but as the series grows, we see more of Ashland and Juliet's world expands and expands farther. So she goes up to Lake of the Woods in On Thin Icing. She returns to the sea in A Crime of Passion Fruit. And if you dive in somewhere in the middle, you might not have all that rich history about what the plaza's like and what it's like during the winter time versus the summer here in the Siskiyou Mountains. Like, does it snow in the winter? Yes, it does. Is it hot in the summer? Yes. Is it sometimes smoky? Check, check, check. These are all things that, yes, of course, I'm going to touch on briefly in each book, but I think you have a deeper breadth of understanding of place and time if you've followed along from book 1. Number 4, the killer. That's right, there's always a killer. So here's the thing about mystery series. If you read any mystery series, no matter if you start from book 1 or you dive in at book 22, you're always going to be served up an individual mystery. So every book can stand alone. There's always some kind of murder that wraps up at the end of each book. But there are little hints that lead back to previous books. If you start in, let's say, book 5, maybe there's a little reference to some trouble that Jules found herself in, or some little problem at Tort in the form of a dead body. There are never spoilers, so you don't have to worry about that. But I do think that it's fun to be able to kind of follow along and think like, wait, Jules returned home approximately 2 years ago in the time span of 10 books, and there have been 10 murders. Like, you might not understand that if you pick up right away at book 10. Okay, last but not least, number 5. This one might surprise you. My number 5 thing is forget everything I've just said and jump in wherever you want to. Honestly, my job as a writer is to give you enough backstory on Juliet, on the setting, on everything we've talked about, the secondary characters, maybe a little hint that there's been trouble in Ashland in the past, that you can pick up no matter where you want, from book 2 to book 10 or book 11 next year, and be able to be centered in a place and time and understanding. And I have heard from a number of readers who've said, I started at Live and Let Pie, and then I went back and I read the whole series. Or I started at book 4 and I fell in love and I read forward and then I went back. So you know what? Do whatever you want. I am just thrilled that you're willing to read my book, or any book for that matter. So break the rule, read it however you want. I'll be happy for that. All right, so those are my 5 reasons why I think you should read a mystery series from start to finish in order. What about you? Do you read series from the beginning, or do you dive in somewhere in the middle and just wing it as you go? I really want to know, so be sure to comment below. And as always, thanks for joining me for another 5 Things Friday. Be sure to subscribe to my channel and click the bell to get notified whenever I share new videos. Happy reading!